He stood in that stairwell, phone pressed to his ear, and the second he saw my face, all the color drained out of his. He didn't know I could hear every word. He didn't know I already knew what he'd done to my friend. And he definitely didn't know that in 3 weeks, he'd be on a plane back to Dubai with nothing but a suitcase, and a lesson he'd never forget. If you've ever had a coworker try to destroy you for the crime of doing your job well, if you know what it feels like to watch someone lie straight to HR's face and get away with it, you are going to love this one. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and settle in, because this is one of the most satisfying slow-burn revenge stories I've ever told. My name's Ryan. Back in the early 2010s, I was a web development team lead for a big internet company that had just opened a shiny new office in London. I was 29 years old. I just landed the best job of my career, and I genuinely thought the hardest part of the job would be the code. I was wrong. The hardest part turned out to be a man named Derek. Let me set the scene properly, because you need to understand exactly how this all started, or the ending isn't going to hit the way it should. When the London office opened, there were 3 teams under one roof: content, SEO, and development, my team. 2 team leads were already in place before I even walked through the door: the office manager, a woman named Diane, and the SEO lead, Derek. I actually met Derek during my own interview. He sat across the table from me, arms folded, testing me with hypothetical scenarios. What would you do if the SEO team needed the site structure changed for rankings? I remember answering honestly, depends what you're asking for. Some of that would tank the user experience, and I wouldn't just say yes because you outrank me on paper. I got the job. Looking back, I think that answer is exactly what he never forgave me for. For the first year, I was drowning in the good kind of chaos, building a dev team from scratch, redesigning a whole portfolio of company websites, putting out fires daily. And somewhere in that chaos, Derek started showing his true colors. He'd corner me at my desk. This needs to be done my way. I'd push back calmly with reasons. He'd storm off to Diane's office to complain. Diane would call me in. I'd explain myself, and every single time, she'd side with the guy who actually understood web development, because that guy was me, not him. It happened again, and somewhere around the 5th or 6th time, it clicked. Derek didn't want a colleague. He wanted a yes man, and I was never going to be that. Now, here's where the story really starts moving. My team and I had been grinding for weeks to finish 2 major company websites, both due to be presented live to the board of directors. I had to travel out to head office to run the demo myself. I left London around lunchtime, checked into a hotel across from head office by 4 p.m., opened my laptop, and started running final tests. That's when we found it. A major functionality bug. The kind that, if it showed up in front of the board tomorrow, would make the whole project look like a disaster. I called my senior developer. I'll call him Marcus, and we went to war with that bug. Me in a hotel room, him back in the London office, on the phone for hours. We didn't stop. Coffee, cold pizza, staring at error logs until the words stopped meaning anything. At around 7 a.m., we finally crushed it. My board meeting was at 10. I want you to picture this. Shower, no sleep, adrenaline instead of breakfast, walking into a room full of executives running on fumes. The CEO, decent guy, always fair with me, took one look and asked if I was okay. I told him the truth. He and the whole board were stunned we'd pulled it off overnight. The presentation went perfectly. Everyone loved the sites. Afterward, the CEO pulled me aside personally, thanked me, and told me to go home and sleep. I took my team out for a well-earned lunch. Diane even organized a company night out that Friday to celebrate. Drinks at a fancy bar, then a club. I stayed for a bit, then left early to catch my train home. I said my goodbyes. I had no idea what was waiting for me on Monday. Monday morning, the office felt wrong. People from HR, people from head office, whispers in the hallway. I found Sophie, the content team lead, and she looked as lost as I felt. Then we were both pulled into a cramped meeting room. Diane, 2 HR reps from head office, Sophie, Derek, and me. And that's when I heard it. A complaint had been filed against Marcus. Someone claimed Marcus had made racist comments at the club on Friday night. The person making the accusation, I'll call him Farid, from Derek's SEO team, said he'd witnessed it firsthand. That I sat there stunned. That wasn't Marcus. That wasn't even close to who Marcus was. HR spent the entire day interviewing everyone who'd been at that club. Not one single person backed up the claim. Not one. It came down to Fard's word against Marcus's, with zero supporting evidence from anyone else in the room that night. And this is the part that should have told me everything right then. Derek wasn't satisfied with no evidence. He pushed hard. He wanted Marcus gone, insisting they couldn't have someone like that in the office. No proof. No witnesses. Just Derek, demanding a man's job. Diane and HR weren't buying it. Marcus got a formal warning, and nothing more. Life limped back to normal. But something didn't sit right with me. Why was Derek fighting so hard for a punishment nobody else thought was justified? 2 months later, I got my answer. A guy from the content team pulled me into an empty meeting room, looking like he needed to get something off his chest. He told me he'd overheard Derek and Fard talking outside the club that same night. A call Derek wasn't even physically present for, since he hadn't come out with everyone else. What I heard made my blood run hot. The whole racism complaint had been manufactured. A setup. Derek's plan all along was simple and cold. Get Marcus fired, then use it as ammunition to go to Diane and argue that I wasn't fit to lead a team if I let that kind of behavior happen under my watch. Destroy Marcus to destroy me. I asked why he hadn't told HR this during the investigation. He said he had tried, but it was his word against 2 people, Derek and Fard, both denying it outright. Nobody believed him. I thanked him, told him I appreciated it more than he knew, and asked him to keep this between us for now. I did not tell Marcus. Not yet. I needed him calm, not furious, because Marcus doing something rash was exactly the kind of gift Derek would love to receive. I was livid. Ice-cold, controlled, focused livid, and I made myself a promise. I wasn't going to touch this until I had something real. No accusations, no confrontations, just patience and a very close eye on the SEO team. I watched every meeting, every hallway conversation, every closed office door. Weeks went by. Nothing. Then, one ordinary afternoon, it landed in my lap like it had been sent from above. Our building had a shared stairwell connecting all 3 floors and leading out to the street. The same stairwell I used for a smoke break whenever I needed to clear my head from a rough stretch of code. I pushed the door open, stepped into the stairwell, and there was Fard, on the phone. The moment he saw me, his face went pale, genuinely pale, like he'd seen a ghost. He was mid-sentence and couldn't exactly hang up on the person he was talking to, so he was forced to keep going right in front of me. I caught fragments. Enrollment, course fees, a visa application. It sounded less like a university admissions call and a lot more like something off. I didn't say a word. I just walked past, lit my cigarette, and let my brain start connecting dots. A few days later, I was back at head office. I sat down with the new office manager. Diane had since moved on, and her replacement was based there full-time, and laid out exactly what I'd overheard. Fard on a call, talking about visas and course enrollment in a tone that didn't sound legitimate. I suggested it might be worth someone quietly reviewing his work visa status. A week of silence. Then, everything moved at once. Fard stopped showing up. A few days after that, word came through the SEO team. Fard had been terminated immediately. His work visa was no longer valid, and the company had zero interest in sponsoring a new one for him. I did some quiet digging of my own. Casual chats. Nothing that would raise a flag. Turned out Fard was originally from Dubai and had been in the UK on his wife's student visa. Her course had just ended, which left them a narrow window to sort out new legal status before they'd have to leave the country, and that's when the whole Stairwell phone call made sense. There's an entire industry of fake colleges in London, barely more than a mailbox in a tiny rented office, that exist purely to enroll people in bogus courses so they can apply for a student visa. Pay the course fee. Get your paperwork, buy yourself time. Fard had been trying to buy his way into one of these fronts to stay in the country and keep his job, except the money dried up the moment he lost his income. Without a paycheck, there was no course fee. Without the course, there was no visa. A few weeks later, Fard and his wife packed up and flew back to Dubai. Gone. For good. Once I confirmed Fard was truly gone, I finally sat Marcus down and told him everything. The setup. The plan to use him to come after me. All of it. He was floored. When I apologized for him getting caught in the crossfire, he wouldn't hear it. He said I'd gone further for him than anyone ever had. Then I found Derek alone, away from anyone else's earshot, and made sure he understood one thing clearly. I knew exactly what he and Fard had tried to do, and I wasn't going to forget it. 2 months later, Derek handed in his resignation. He never worked another day in that office. Nobody's heard from him since. Picture it one more time. Derek, so confident he could weaponize a fake complaint and end a good man's career, never once considering that the same silence and observation he counted on to protect him was the exact thing that ended up burying his accomplice. He wanted a yes man. Instead, he got a team lead who watched, waited, and never made a move until he was holding the exact right card. And when he played it, there was no coming back from it. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty about how this played out. Honestly, no. I feel for Marcus, who never should have been dragged into someone else's petty power struggle in the first place. But Fard made his own choice when he lied to HR's face to hurt a good man. Karma didn't need my help. I just made sure it had the right address. If this story had you clenching your fists right along with me, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying workplace karma you've ever witnessed? And if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe, because trust me, there are plenty more where this came from.